Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. Lately, Maria had taken to wearing scarves or long-necked sweaters, no matter the weather. It was a curious change that drew confused looks and hushed whispers from our friends. She claimed she was battling a persistent cold, but this cold had been her companion for over a month now, and yet, she showed no other signs of being sick. No sniffles, no coughs, just the scarves. It was late September, and the leaves were just beginning to turn. The air was crisp, but not so harsh that one would need to shield their neck at all times. We sat across from each other at breakfast, an air of routine dullness hanging between us. Her eyes, once so vibrant and full of life, now darted around, avoiding my gaze. "Honey, are you sure you're all right?" I asked as I passed her a mug of coffee. "You've been wearing those scarves for weeks." She touched the soft fabric wrapped tightly around her neck, a flash of panic crossing her features before she masked it with a smile. "Just a lingering chill, Mark. Don't worry, it's nothing." But worry I did. Her behavior was odd, and that nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I decided that I would get to the bottom of it. There had to be a reason for this sudden change, and I was determined to find out what it was. Later that day, I came home early from work. The house was quiet, the only sound the distant hum of the shower running upstairs. My heart pounded as I ascended the steps, 2 at a time. Maybe, just maybe, I could catch a glimpse of what she was hiding, if she was hiding anything at all. Reaching our bedroom, I noticed the bathroom door was ajar, steam billowing out. She was singing softly, a tune I didn't recognize. I paused, my hand on the door, hesitating. Was I really about to invade her privacy? But then, the unsettling feeling took over, pushing me forward. I pushed the door open just enough to see her silhouette through the frosted glass of the shower. My breath caught in my throat as she stepped out, reaching for a towel. My eyes were drawn not to her familiar, lovely face, but to her neck, exposed now without its usual covering. It was as though a wild animal had marked her. Hickeys, both faded and fresh, painted her skin in ugly purples and reds. A feeling of betrayal surged through me, hot and fierce. How long had this been going on? How could she? "What do you mean?" The words burst from me, louder than I intended. She jumped, her eyes wide as she clutched the towel to her chest. "Mark! You scared me. What are you doing home so early?" Her voice, once sweet and comforting, now grated on my ears. I pointed at her neck, unable to form words, my mind racing with anger and pain. "Is this why? Is this why you've been hiding behind scarves?" My voice broke with the weight of my heart shattering. Tears welled up in her eyes as she wrapped the towel tighter around herself. "Mark, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain," I shouted, my voice echoing off the tile. The sight of her like this, so vulnerable yet so deceitful, fueled my rage. "Who is he?" She sobbed, her whole body shaking. "I'm so sorry, Mark. It was a mistake. It was nothing." "Nothing?" I scoffed, the irony bitter on my tongue. "It looks like quite something to me, Maria." The confrontation spiraled from there. Accusations flew, and secrets spilled like blood from a wound. By the end of it, I was drained, empty of everything but a cold resolve. I would not forgive. I could not forget. The marriage I thought we had was over. I demanded that she leave. As she packed her things, the finality of our decade together closing with each sip of her suitcase, I felt both vindicated and hollow. The door closed with a soft click behind her, and just like that, Maria was gone. The silence she left in her wake was a gaping void, filled only by the echoes of my raging heartbeat. As I sat there, the realization of what I must do next began to take shape. I would rebuild, yes. But first, I would ensure that our paths never crossed again. The game had just begun. In the weeks following Maria's departure, the silence of the house became oppressive, a constant reminder of the void her absence had left. I busied myself with work, throwing every ounce of energy into the distractions of daily tasks. Yet, the evenings were the hardest, returning to an empty home where memories whispered from every corner. One such evening, as I was about to settle into the numbing embrace of old movie reruns, my phone buzzed sharply against the coffee table. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years, Tom, an old friend from college who had somehow kept in touch with Maria more than with me in recent years. "Hey, Mark, buddy. Just heard about you and Maria. Tough break, man. How about a drink tonight?" My treat, his message read. Hesitation gripped me. Tom was a link to Maria, yet in my current state, any company was preferable to solitude. I typed a quick agreement and headed out to the familiar old pub where we used to gather during simpler times. Tom was already there, seated at a dimly lit corner table, a half-empty pint in front of him. His face lit up as he saw me, and he stood, clapping me on the back with a hearty laugh that felt somewhat forced. "Mark. It's been too long, man. Sit down, sit down. First round's on me," he said, signaling the bartender. We fell into an awkward conversation, dancing around the elephant in the room until our drinks arrived, loosening tongues and inhibitions. "So, Tom," I began, my voice steady despite the churn of emotions. "How often have you seen Maria lately?" Tom's eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place before he masked it with a sip of his beer. You know, here and there. Group stuff mostly. Never really one-on-one since you two were tight. Why do you ask?" The directness of my next question took even me by surprise. "Did you know about her affair?" The question hung between us like a thick fog. Tom set his pint down with more force than necessary, his expression tightening. "Look, Mark, it's not my place to say. But you did know." It wasn't a question anymore. Tom sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't know how to tell you, mate. It was supposed to be nothing serious. Just a fling." Anger flared within me, but I tamped it down, focusing on the more pressing question. "Who is he, Tom? I have a right to know." There was a long pause. Finally, Tom looked up, his eyes meeting mine with a seriousness I had rarely seen in him. "It's Alex. Alex Monroe. You remember him? From the marketing team at your old job. Alex Monroe." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Not just an acquaintance, but someone I had mentored, trusted. Someone who had been in my home, laughed at my table. "I need to go," I said abruptly, standing. The room spun slightly, a mix of alcohol and shock. "Mark, wait, let me help you with this," Tom called after me, but I was already heading out into the cool night air, my mind racing. As I drove home, the pieces began to fall into place, each revelation more painful than the last. I knew what I had to do. Alex Monroe had not only betrayed a friendship but had shattered my life. And for that, he would have to answer. Revenge, a concept I had always scorned, now seemed the only fitting response. I would need allies, information, and a plan. Tonight was just the beginning. The storm was gathering, and I was at its heart. The next morning, the clarity that comes with the dawn did little to soothe the turmoil inside me. Instead, as the first light crept through the blinds, casting long shadows across the floor, my resolve only hardened. I needed to confront Alex Monroe, but not with blind rage. This needed to be strategic, calculated, cold. Before heading to the office, I called Jenna, an old colleague who still worked with Alex. If anyone could provide insight, or even better, dirt on him, it would be Jenna. She had always been sharp, observant, and, importantly, she owed me a favor. "Jenna, it's Mark. I need information on Alex Monroe." "It's urgent," I said as soon as she answered, skipping pleasantries. "Mark? Wow, straight to the point. What's going on? Is this about the R&D leak last month? Her voice was tinged with curiosity. No, something personal. I found out he's been involved with Maria, I admitted, feeling a sting at saying it out loud. There was a pause, and then a soft sigh. I'm sorry, Mark. I had no idea. What do you need? Anything that can help me understand what I'm dealing with. Any skeletons in his closet, habits, anything. You got it. I'll see what I can find and text you. We should meet up though, she offered. Thanks, Jenna. I'll wait for your text. As I hung up, the second part of my plan formed. I would confront Alex, yes, but first, I would undermine him, professionally and personally. If he was climbing the corporate ladder, I'd be the rung that snapped under his weight. The morning passed in a blur of activity. I was almost mechanically going through my work emails when Jenna's text came through. Got something. Meet me for lunch. 12:30 at the greenhouse. The greenhouse was a quiet little bistro, perfect for a discreet conversation. I replied with a simple, see you there, grabbed my keys, and headed out. Jenna was already waiting when I arrived, a small folder tucked under her arm, her expression serious. Mark, thanks for coming. Listen, you didn't hear this from me, but Alex has been involved in some shady deals here. He's been taking credit for work that isn't his, and there are rumors he's been bribing procurement for contract favors, she whispered across the table after we ordered. My interest peaked, and a plan began to form. Do you have proof of this? She slid the folder across the table. Everything I could find is in here. Emails, transactions, a few recorded conversations that don't look good. I suggest you look through this carefully. I nodded, my mind racing as I flipped through the documents. This was more than I had hoped for. Jenna, this is perfect. Thank you. We parted ways shortly after, and as I drove back to the office, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Tom. Mark, need to talk. It's about Alex and Maria. More to it than you know. The plot thickened with every passing hour. My next steps were clear, sift through the evidence Jenna provided, and then confront Alex. But first, I needed to see what Tom knew. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about unraveling a web of lies that I had been caught in without even realizing it. The intrigue was deep, the stakes were high, and I was right at the center, ready to strike. The afternoon sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city as I drove to meet Tom. The contents of the folder lay heavily in my passenger seat, a tangible weight of betrayal and deceit. My mind churned with the possibilities of what Tom might reveal, further complicating the twisted narrative that my life had become. I found Tom waiting at a secluded park bench, his figure tense and uneasy as I approached. Mark, thanks for coming. I've been thinking, and there's something you need to know. Something big, Tom started without preamble, his eyes searching mine for signs of reaction. Let's hear it then, I replied, bracing myself. It's not just Alex, Tom said slowly, each word measured. Maria has been playing us all. She and Alex planned to take you down, Mark. It wasn't just an affair. It was part of a larger scheme. I felt the ground shift beneath me. What are you talking about? Why would she do that? Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. Alex wanted your job, sure, but Maria, she was after more than just a fling or revenge. She found out about your offshore accounts, the investments you hid from her. She planned to use Alex to get to them. The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. The offshore accounts were my secret, a buffer I'd built for myself in case everything else fell apart. Not even Maria knew about them, or so I had thought. How did she find out? My voice was a hoarse whisper. Alex has a cousin working in the bank you use. He got access to your records, passed them to Maria. They've been setting this up for months, Tom confessed, his expression one of disgust and pity. The betrayal was complete. Maria hadn't just cheated on me, she had tried to destroy me. The depth of her deceit was profound, and it left a bitter taste in my mouth. I need to stop them, I said resolutely, standing up from the bench. Tom, can you help me? I'm with you, Mark. Let's end this, he replied, his determination mirroring my own. Together, we devised a plan. Using the evidence Jenna had provided, and the new information from Tom, we would expose both Maria and Alex, not just to our circle but to the authorities. If everything went as planned, they would lose everything. The final confrontation took place the very next day. I invited Alex to meet at a local cafe, a public place where he couldn't make a scene. Tom was already there, seated discreetly at the back. I walked in, my heart pounding, the folder of evidence tucked under my arm. Alex looked up, a smug smile playing on his lips until he saw the seriousness of my expression. Mark, what's this about? It's over, Alex. I know everything, I said, my voice steady as I slid the folder across the table to him. Your affair with Maria, the planned theft of my assets, your shady dealings at work. It all ends now. His face paled as he leafed through the documents, his eyes widening in panic. You can't prove. Oh, but I can. And I will. I'm going to the police, Alex. And to our company's board. You're finished, I interrupted him coldly. Tom then stepped forward, his presence a shock to Alex, who stuttered, trying to formulate a response. Maria, who had been trying to call me incessantly, finally appeared at the door of the cafe, her face a mask of anger and fear. She had been listening in, desperate to salvage whatever part of her plan remained. Mark, please, let's talk about this, she pleaded, stepping towards me. There's nothing left to talk about, I stated flatly, the finality in my voice brooking no argument. The police arrived shortly after, and both Alex and Maria were taken away, their schemes laid bare for all to see. The evidence was overwhelming, leaving them with no room to maneuver. As I watched them being led away, a profound sense of relief washed over me. It was over. The lies, the deceit, the pain, all gone with their departure. I turned away, knowing that our paths would never cross again, the bonds of love and friendship irreparably severed by the deep scars of betrayal. In the end, justice had its day, and I was left to rebuild from the ashes of a life I once knew. The future was uncertain, but it was finally mine to shape.